That's a really nice piece of art there in the middle. In the middle. Yeah, I'm looking at somewhere else. That little building in the bottom right corner. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. Paris. A ray of light seeping between the curtains wakes me. It was 11 p.m. when I'd reached the Montparnasse last night. I'd checked into the first little hotel I'd stumbled on when I left the station. I checked the time, 11 o'clock. I haven't slept this late for years. Of course, after recent events, sleep hadn't exactly come easy. My window looks out over Boulevard Raspail and gives me a superb view of Paris in a downpour. Perfect weather for my trip to the flea markets of Saint-Ouen in search of Ulysses. I consider taking the record with me, but decide that it's probably more secure in a safe in my room. As the rain lets up a little, I walk to the local brasserie that used to go occasionally as a student. Usually when I come back to Paris, it's just a quick return trip to the head office of the bank I work for in La Défense. It's pleasant to be able to enjoy the capital without the constant stress, even if I'm not exactly on vacation. Maybe it's a matter of context, I don't know, but I think to myself that this could be a great opportunity to hook up with some of my old college friends. That street looks like a kind of glossier version of Covent Garden. I sit on the terrace under an awning, light a cigarette and order a croque monsieur and a coffee. I mentally catalogue my old friends and realise that those I haven't lost track of have, like me, moved out to the provinces. Of course there's my old pal Frank Duval. Last I heard he still lives here. I could call him, see if he wants to meet up for a drink. I'm making a lot of open, positive yes decisions. I tell myself that a bit of moral support wouldn't hurt. Frank and we've known each other for so long. And I feel a little ashamed of myself for not catching up with him more often. This is the time to fix that. I grab my phone and dial his number. He tells me he'd love to see me and we agree on a meeting place for a drink later in the evening. I look forward to it happily. I finish my croque monsieur, pay the bill and set off towards the nearest subway entrance. The rain is falling again when I get to Saint-Ouen. The address that Mark gives me is at stall 73 in the Jules Val's market. That definitely looks like a cross between Covent Garden and East London. East London arches with the pull down shutters and then people trading is East London arches, but the glass roof over the top and those lanterns is very Covent Garden market. I have trouble finding my way along the different markets and I stop several times and ask for directions. When I finally stumble upon the entrance of Jules Val market, it's well into the afternoon and some of the stalls are already closing. I hope I'm not going to pay for my lie-in by finding myself facing a closed metal shutter. I work my way down a lane to stall 73. Unfortunately, instead of the old record store I had hoped to find, the place is taken by a bookseller. A bit further along there's a stall selling 1950s furnishings, which also has a few boxes of old records. Above the storefront, a sign announces Patty's Store, Hardware and Records. Maybe the owner, a young woman who looks like Beck Page imitator, will be able to help me. On the other hand, the bookseller is unhurriedly moving his boxes of books inside. I await a few minutes, undecided, when the bookseller, an old man with a moustache, approaches me. "Hello, young lady. Come on, don't be scared." He beckons me closer. I need to decide. Well, he's in the lot. I decide to question the bookseller. "Good afternoon, Mr. Pierre Dupont. Good to meet you." He holds out a hand. I shake it. "Are you interested in old books? Can I help you with something?" "Yes, at least maybe. I'm looking for a stall that sells vinyl records. The address I was given is your pitch." I show him the paper with the address. "Ah, yes, I remember him, Ulysses. A nice boy. He was doing some research into the lima. He gave his stall up to me when he left Paris. He left Paris? Okay, so that's lightning. Lightning just got highlighted when I made that choice. He's left Paris. Yes, in the summer, about 3 months ago. That was a real stroke of luck. It's not easy to get a pitch here. If I might ask, why are you looking for him? He's a friend. I'm trying to track him down. Do you know where he went? The bookseller shrugs. England, London probably. I admit I didn't ask, but that was the next logical step for his research. What exactly was this research? What I was telling you, he was asking me all kinds of questions about the Ordo Templi Orientris, the Thelema if you prefer. Of course I tried to direct him towards the real occultists, Blavatsky, Steiner, Papus in a pinch. What's the Thelema? What's that? Yes, you know, the occult movement founded by Crowley, among others. Oh, Aleister Crowley. Crowley, the name's familiar. Aleister Crowley, an Englishman. He wrote the Liber Alvalegis. You must have heard of it. There are plenty of fictional works that refer to it, a bit like Lovecraft or Edgar Allan Poe. He was a nut job, Aleister Crowley. Do what thou will shall be the whole of the law. I've got a very nice copy, if you like, an American first edition in excellent condition. But if you're really interested in the subject, the Theopolists are much more informative than Crowley. If I were you, I'd begin with Blavatsky instead of wasting your time with melodramatic Satan worshippers. He grabs a thick leather-bound volume labelled Isis Unveiled from the shelf behind him. I realise that the conversation is getting out of hand. If he starts trying to sell me his merchandise, I'll never get him back on track. I have to refocus this discussion fast. Talking to you about the record is pointless. And also, somebody's just ransacked you trying to find it. If you tell someone in Paris, you could get robbed again. Look, sir, I'm sorry, but I'm not interested in your books. I just want to find my friend. The man looks crushed. He must be a real fanatic. Ah, I see. Well, young lady, all I know for sure is that he let me have his pitch. As I told you, when I asked him why he wanted to give up such a great pitch, he said something about England. I have to admit I wasn't really concerned. After all, it's none of my business. Anyway, that's all I can tell you. But you should ask Patricia. She's got a stall a bit further down the road. He points to a stall full of 1950s furnishings. It's called Chez Patty. She might be able to tell you more, considering that they were seeing a lot of each other, she and your friend, if you know what I mean. The bookseller looks at his watch. If you'll excuse me, it's time to shut up shop. I don't have any advice for you, but you should hurry if you want to talk to Patty. And if you're ever looking for a particular publication, do let me know. Thank you, Mr. Duclos. Good evening. I know what I have to do. I approached a young woman who is writing in a large notebook. The day's accounts, probably. I guess you're Patty? She looks up at me and answers with a slight Italian accent. Patrizia. Patty's for the tourists. What can I do for you? I'm looking for the owner of the old record store on pitch 73, Ulysses. The new stallholder told me that you, knew him. Patrizia gives a broad smile as she gazes at me. Let me guess. Alice, right? She bursts out laughing at my startled expression, delighted to have astounded me, but without a trace of spite. It's funny, you're not at all how I imagined you'd be. That is just a really nice drawing. That's a lovely smile. But how? Oh, it's simple. Ulysses told me about you, of course. You really screwed his head up when you left him, you know. He's the one who left me. Oh, got a spiral. Patricia smiles and stares at me. Straight away I regret my outburst. How do you know each other? He took stall 73 about, 3-4 years ago? He was just next door and he seemed nice, so I went over to say hello and we became friends. Something tells me they were more than just friends. I'm reluctant to ask her. Don't ask. I decide if I prefer not to know, but I suppose my agitation must be obvious. So I got a flower for that, which makes me think that was a positive choice. Patricia snorts again with laughter. The situation seems to amuse her enormously. There's no hostility, no spite. Just a disarming honesty paired with certain audacity. Yes, we were having sex, your man and I. He even lived at my place for a while when he first arrived in Paris. But it didn't work out. Patricia heaves a theatrical sigh, intensely Italian. No. But it had nothing to do with you, my dear. We weren't meant to last. Ulysses wasn't really my type, if you know what I mean. Patricia gives me a knowing smile and continues talking before I've really had the chance to figure out what she's trying to tell me. And I have to say that his hippie music got on my nerves pretty quickly. Let me guess, you're more of a Cramps or Meteors type of girl, right? Exactly. We could see eye to eye on the Solics and the Kinks, but give us a pretty small common ground. And of course, I soon realised that he was still hooking up on you. Anyway, we broke up, but we stayed on good terms. She likes the Kinks and she has an awesome smile. Be a lesbian with her. She's awesome. He's not the type to hold a grudge, your Ulysses. Ask if she knows where he is. That got lightning for that. And a spiral. Do you know what happened to him after he left Paris? The new owner of his pitch told me he probably went to London. He left in a bit of hurry, but that's what he told me too. What do you mean in a hurry? Well, it pretty much happened overnight. He didn't want to tell me exactly why he was leaving. To tell the truth, I thought he was leaving for you, to go back to you. I guess I was wrong. Patricia rummages in her bag and pulls out her cell phone. She checks the time. It's time to close up. Do you have plans for this evening? Her question catches me unawares. I plan to meet a friend for drinks. Why do you ask? That's a shame. I could have introduced you to someone who might have some answers to your questions. I can cancel with Frank easy enough. I can always see him some other time. On the other hand, do I really want to spend this evening with Patricia and this mystery person? Yeah, I want you to be lesbians with Patricia. I decide that Frank can wait. It's more important to follow this new lead. Alright, just give me a minute to call my friend and let him know. I move away to call Frank. He's a bit disappointed, but he seems distracted. I offered to meet him tomorrow, but unfortunately this is his last evening in Paris. A pity. I promise to make it up to him next time. I go back to Patricia, who's waiting patiently for me to hang up. She smiles at me. Help me shut up shop? I help Patricia stow away the record crates and small pieces of furniture that were beneath the awning. Then she pulls down the metal shutter. Then we head toward the way out. 3 hours and 2 gin and tonics later, I'm still waiting to meet Patricia's mystery man. We left George Val's market and we caught a metro, then another. Patricia had steered me to a glossy bar in a little street on the 11th arrondissement near to the Bastille. The music, an eclectic mix of garage rockabilly and psychedelic blaring out at the most deafening volume, and the extremely reasonable price of the drinks seemed to be a major selling point of the joint. We found Patricia's friends. We quickly hit it off. Paul and John are record store owners. They recall meeting Ulysses when he was in Paris and going out with Patricia. This doesn't particularly surprise me. Ulysses tends to stick in your mind. Justine works at the town hall in the 8th arrondissement, and Claudia in a clothes shop in Châtelet. Luc, who must be going on 50, is part of the technical crew at the Olympia. We talk a lot about music and chat a little about our lives. Paul tries to flirt mildly with me, but Patricia freezes him with a look and he stops, a little embarrassed. When I ask Patricia which of her friends I should question about Ulysses, she tells me that Enzo isn't there yet, that he'll be there later after work. I'm ordering another drink when I feel Patricia's hand on my arm. She speaks in my ear above the hubbub. I'm gonna go introduce you to Enzo. I follow her to the end of the bar to find this new arrival driver who's joined the little group. A man rather advanced in years, dressed in a velvet suit with a flowery shirt. He gives a shout of laughter and an easy smile creasing his white bearded face. His presence is magnetic. The image of an old wizard runs through my head, but I have a sense that this man is very down to earth, rooted in reality and delighting in life. Ah, Patricia, venga qui. He kisses the young woman affectionately, like an old uncle kissing his favourite niece, which makes me wonder if they may be related in some way. Then he turns to me. Good evening. I think we don't know each other, yes? No, I'm Alice. Nice to meet you. He speaks with a strong Italian accent which strengthens my idea of a family connection. Enzo, I don't know if you remember Ulysses. You know, I introduced you. At the mention of my ex, a shadow passes over the man's smiling face. Alice is looking for him, and I suggested that she meet you, seeing as you and Ulysses got on so well. Do you know what happened to him after he left Paris? Enzo gestures to me to follow him. Come with me, we're going somewhere we can talk without shouting. Enzo and I walk out the bar and up the road to a little courtyard. Enzo sits on a bench, I sit down next to him. He lights a cigarette and then offers me the pack. I accept one and let him light it for me. I'm not going to make any bones about it. If I mention a certain record, a 45 with a white sleeve, well, I'm caught off guard by this question. Should I be wary of this man, or can I trust him? Tell the truth. You want answers? Yes, I know the record you're talking about. It's one of the reasons I'm trying to find Ulysses. I suppose it's because of this record that he got in contact with you, right? Enzo smiles. Yes and no. As you've guessed, yes, I listened to the record a long time ago. But the fact that Ulysses and I met is really just a chance, or destiny. Have you seen the film Le Cercle Rouge? I'm going to give an answer for myself. No. No, sorry, it doesn't ring a bell. That doesn't surprise me. It's a very old French crime movie with Alain Delon and Yves Montand. At the start of the film, Jean-Pierre Melville, the director, invented a quote which he attributed to Gatouama and which perfectly applies to all the people who have listened to that record. When men, even unknowingly, are to meet one day, whatever may befall each, whatever the diverging paths, on that said day they will inevitably come together in the red circle. Seeing my confusion, Enzo adds, there aren't so many of us to have listened to the record, but our paths keep crossing, as if our fates were linked. I suppose you've listened to the record too. You must understand what I'm talking about. Enzo glances at me at the corner of his eye. I'm sure he's reading my face like an open book. Believe it or not, I really did meet Ulysses by chance. What were the chances that he would rent the pitch next to my niece's, or that they would hit it off? So much that she'd introduce him to me because we shared a passion for psychedelic music. It's true, that's strange. Why are you looking for him? He contacted me by mail a few days ago. I knew straight away that something wasn't right. Enzo takes a deep breath and rolls his eyes. He wanted to know more about the record, to know where it came from, to know how it worked. He told me about you, you know. Really? We split up years ago. He hasn't forgotten you. The last time I saw him, he talked about London. He had a solid lead. Yeah, that's what the new owner of the stall told me. But you know, London, it's big. You said a solid lead. Can you be more precise? Enzo looks troubled. I'm sorry, Ulysses dropped by to see me. I was at work. He said something about DJ something, Putman, I think. A DJ? Yes, on the radio. A radio presenter. Did he say which station? Enzo shrugs. That doesn't help me much, but it's better than nothing, I suppose. Enzo must see the disappointment in my face because he adds, if I'd known you'd be looking for him, I'd have asked for more details. We are quiet for a moment. I think Enzo has told me all he knows about Ulysses, which isn't that much. I could cut the conversation short and suggest we go back to the bar. I could ask him to tell me his story. He hasn't told me how he came to have the record. Yeah. You haven't told me how you came to have the record. It's a long story. Are you sure you want to listen to the ramblings of an old man? I smile. Since I asked, of course I'm interested. Enzo looks delighted. Very well, I warned you. I played a musician psychedelica band when I was young in Italy. We played a lot of concerts. We even took part in some of the big festivals at the time. Glastonbury, the Isle of Wight. I've been to the Isle of Wight Festival. I saw Ray Davies of the Kinks at the Isle of Wight Festival. We weren't as good as Airplane of the Dead, but we weren't bad. We released a record with a little label over there. I fell off the bus and landed arse first at that festival. Literally. What was your band called? Cuor della Terra. That means heart of the earth. Before I could find the words to tell him that name meant nothing to me, Enzo rescues me from my confusion by adding, "Oh, it's normal you've never heard of us." We didn't sell much. When I'm in a record store, I always check the 60s box, hoping to find a copy, but I've only come across 4 since the band broke up. I guess the unsold ones are in a warehouse somewhere, or they've just been destroyed. It came out in 1971. The golden age was almost over. If we had started a few years earlier, I think we would have had a chance. At least I think so. Anyway, we were discovered by Vertigo. Philips experimental label? That's it. They were already a prestige label at the time. We thought that if we signed with them, our success was guaranteed. Giuseppe, our guitarist, promised them a really ambitious concept double album. They just released 666 from Aphrodite's Child, and they thought we had the chops to make the same type of album, but with our Italian feel. They sent us to Paris to record the Europa Sono studio, where Aphrodite's Child recorded 666. That's where I listened to the record. The record company had sent us this Russian to deal with the production, Sergei Ivanovich. A really talented guy. The stuff he could pull out of a studio recording, it was miraculous. But how should I say it? He was crazy. Crazy in what way? Where do I start? He took an incredible amount of drugs. He was unpredictable. Giuseppe adored him straight away. Me, I preferred to keep my distance. One day he arrived at the studio with the record. He introduced it as the ultimate psychedelic trip. Better than that. Whatever the hell that word. Ayahuasca. I have no idea. I can't even begin to pronounce that. I'm sorry. Giuseppe listened to it first. He convinced the other members of the band to listen too. I didn't put up much of a fight. After all, it was just a record. It couldn't be worse than listening to the B-side of White Light, White Heat on acid, right? Enzo stops. I turn towards him. His eyes are damp. I realise that the record probably stole a piece of his life too. A piece of him. The record stole someone from you too? Enzo sighs. Yes, you could say that. The record made me relive my past. Before I listened to it, I was married and my wife, Julia, was expecting our first child. When I came back to reality, she was dead. A car accident 2 years earlier. Fuck me! And it was my fault. I never knew what Giuseppe and the others saw when they listened to the record, or if they changed their pasts. I never asked them. Of course, I listened again and again to the record the next day after I realised it had destroyed my life, my familia. And did you succeed? No, the record never again gave me a moment where I could have stopped the accident. But each time I listened, my present changed, bringing me back to a reality that was further and further from my memories. I didn't care. All I wanted was to get my Julia back. But no matter what I tried to change, she was dead and I was in the studio recording a record. What happened after? The band collapsed. I needed to grieve and no one understood what I was going through. No one could understand, really. When I resurfaced a few months later, I was a pizza cook in a restaurant in the 11th arrondissement. Our album was almost finished when I left. But seeing as there was no more band to promote it, Vertigo never released it. Giuseppe was only one to stay in music. He had a little success in Italy in the 80s. A disco track under an American-sounding stage name. Then my sister moved to France after she separated from her daughter's father. Her daughter, Patrizia, I suppose. Enzo smiles. There you go. Now you know everything. Do you know where the record came from? Do you know how your sound engineer Sergei, how he got the record? I can tell you what he said to me at the time, but I can't promise it's the truth. I shrug. Go on. Sergei won it in a poker game in a hippie commune in Germany. Really? I don't recall the details. He was always telling unbelievable stories, but then some of those who was confirmed by people I trusted, so who knows? Why not that one? And before Germany? There are several theories about the origin of the record. According to Sergei, the record was recorded by Timothy Leary just before he left the United States. Timothy Leary, the acid test guy. Exactly. Considering what a strong advocate for LSD he was, the theory seems plausible to me. Didn't he make a record in Germany with the krautrock band at the beginning of the 70s? Yes, 7 Up with Ashra Temple, but that was 2 or 3 years after I'd listened to the record. Hang on though, in that case, why didn't Ulysses follow that lead? Surely he'd be in Berlin or Munich instead of London, right? Ah, of course Ulysses tried that lead when I told him the story. He even went to Germany last year. Unfortunately, that was a dead end. We sit in silence on the bench. Enzo has lit another cigarette. He finishes it, crushes it out, and we go back into the bar. The place has started to empty. The end of the evening is drawing near. The background music, firmly rock and roll when we left, has mellowed into soul. Probably Al Green or Wilson Pickett. Oh, both awesome choices. Our group have migrated to a table at the back of the bar. I pick up my barely touched drink and sit down. The ice is melted. Pity. Enzo chats to Paul. He looks so cheerful, as if nothing was wrong. I'm trying to organise my thoughts when I feel a hand on my thigh. Patricia sits next to me. Was Enzo able to help you? I consider the question for a few seconds. Honestly, he mostly just confirmed what I already knew. That said, he was kind enough to tell me about his past. The record stole his wife from him, his familia, as he says. At least Jean-Baptiste is still alive in this reality. But it reaffirmed my belief that the record shouldn't be used lightly. Who knows what strange version of me I could find myself in. I realise that Patricia is still waiting for my answer. Yes, Enzo helped. Yes, thank you for introducing me to your uncle. He confirmed that I was on the right track. Oh, that's great, and it let us get to know each other better too. We're interrupted by Justine, who is getting up, signaling to us that she is going, closely followed by Claudia and Paul. We exchange kisses. Luke, John and Enzo seem deep in heated discussion. Patricia turns to me. I'm going to head off soon too. Can I offer you a last drink at my place? I live 3 blocks away. I wasn't born yesterday. The signals that Patricia has been sending me all evening are pretty clear. It's clearly not just a last drink that she's offering. On one hand, I could see it as cheating on Jean-Baptiste. On the other, this moment will probably be a raise when I listen to the record again. I flirted with a few women during my first years at college, but I never took it all the way. Maybe I was too concerned. Maybe I was too conventional. Maybe I was scared of being ostracized. This moment outside my true reality, wouldn't it be the right time to try something new without risking the consequences? Spend the night with Patricia. Okay, a last drink. I put my hand over hers. With pleasure. So let's go. Patricia gets up and says goodbye to her uncle and friends. I do the same, then I follow her out and we're swallowed up by the Parisian night. I let Patricia guide me through the narrow streets. After several hundred meters, I have the feeling of being watched again. Patricia noticed and asked me what's wrong. I feel like someone's following us. Do you think? She looks around. Oh, you're right. I know this guy. Further down the sidewalk, I can make out the shape of a man in a leather jacket. Hey, you stop following us, Eddie. We've seen you. Eddie? Yes, it's actually Jean-Luc Granville, but he prefers to be called Eddie Black. He's a loser, a has-been. After hesitating for a moment, he comes towards us. When he passes beneath a street lamp, I recognise his face. It's the old rockabilly who was listening to my conversation with Mark 2 days ago in Bordeaux. Sorry, Patty, I didn't want to bother you. I just wanted to speak to the young lady. He jerks his chin in my direction. Well, first, the young lady has a name. She's called Alice. Secondly, it's the middle of the night in a back street. Do you really think it's the right moment to ask anyone anything? If you have something to say to my friend, you say it at a decent time and place, okay? But there's no but. Go on, get out of here. Eddie hesitates again, opens his mouth to speak, thinks again, and then, looking sheepish, heads off in the other direction. Patricia watches him until he turns a corner and is out of sight. He lives in the neighbourhood. I bump into him a lot. He's not a bad guy, but he's kind of clueless. He wouldn't stop hassling Ulysses about some rare record. I hope he won't bother you too much with all that. He worries me a bit. I have to confess, it does worry me a bit all the same. He followed me from Bordeaux. I already caught him listening in on my conversations. And my apartment was searched. Searched? Honestly, I can't see Eddie breaking into people's homes. Are you sure it wasn't just a burglary? I shake my head. No, whoever broke in did steal anything. It has something to do with Ulysses. I don't know what he's got himself into, but I'd be careful if I were you. Patricia stops in front of a turn-of-the-century building with a coach gate. Well, here we are. She rummages in her bag for her keys, and we climb the 6 flights up to her little apartment under the eaves. The interior reflects her perfectly, lush and baroque with lots of 1950s furniture. Patricia kicks off her heels and slips off her jacket and bag in the entry hall before choosing a record to put on the turntable. She directs me to do the same while she goes to get us a drink. I sit down on her shabby old sofa. She looks like Imelda May is who she keeps reminding me of. The crackling of the record gives way to the smooth voice of a crooner, accompanied by a few sultry piano notes, probably Sinatra. Patricia returns with 2 cocktail glasses full of clear liquid, olives bobbing at the bottom of each. I found the makings of gin martini. I hope you like it. She puts the glasses on the coffee table and snuggles up against me. After all the signals she's been sending me this evening, her intentions couldn't be clearer. If I really don't want this night to finish in her bed, I need to tell her right now. With all that in mind, I'll need to be extremely tactful if I don't want to upset her. I should also take the lead and show her we're on the same wavelength. Kiss her. Be a lesbian. I take her face gently between my hands and press a shy kiss onto her mouth, which she returns with fervour. We stay on the couch for a while, intertwined. Then she takes my hand and guides me to her bedroom. I'm woken by the sound of water running through the ancient pipes and the ray of sunshine that filters through the blinds. Look at her, she's just full on naked with a towel on her head. I've hardly had time to surface, stretch and sit up in the bed when Patricia puts her head round the door. Oh, you're awake. Yes, I answer, stifling a yawn. Do you mind if I finish getting ready in here? I have to open my stall at 11. I shake my head. Patricia, her hair wrapped in a towel, crosses the room and opens the blinds, then the window. She's naked! People can see! Italian in France. What do you expect? The sun is shining brightly outside and the early fall chill dispels my sleepiness. She sits down in front of her dressing table and begins to apply her makeup. So then you're leaving from London next, are you? That's right. As soon as I've dropped my hotel and got myself a train ticket. Do you have something over there to go on to find Ulysses? Your uncle told me about a radio presenter, somebody Putman, but he wasn't sure. Except for that, not much, unfortunately. Patricia's hand, which holds her mascara, freezes, and she seems to be thinking something over. I'll give you one of his contacts, a record store guy. He came and spent a weekend in Paris with us. When we were together, your man and I. Really good guy, you'll see. She grabs a notepad and an eyeliner which lies on her dressing table and notes down a name and address. Alan O'Reilly? Oh, you wouldn't know him. It was me who introduced him to Ulysses. He's an old friend of mine, actually. I lay the paper on the bedside table. Thank you anyway. At least I know where to start when I get to London. Patricia gives me a big smile in the mirror. You're welcome. Plus, I had a great evening and just as lovely night. I can feel that an unexpected compliment has made me blush a bit despite myself. Sorry, this will be a bit noisy. Patricia seizes the dryer and begins to subdue her damp mess of brown curls. I watch her distractedly trying to put some order in my thoughts. At least I've got somewhere to aim for in London. That's something. Right, well, I really have to run. Oh, one last thing if you don't mind. I gesture to her to continue. It would be easier to talk to musicians and record guys if I show you, how should I put it? If I looked a bit less like a banker? That's it, exactly. I realise that actually I don't need to dress as if I was heading for the office. I pack my bag on a kind of autopilot as if we were going to a conference. You're perfectly right. Anyway, if I continue my quest, either I'll have to buy some new clothes or I'll have to drop by the laundromat. She gets up, leans over and kisses my cheek. There's coffee in the machine and I left you a set of keys on the table. What a cool dress! Take your time, have a shower if you want, and you can drop the keys in the post box on the way out. That would be great. Thanks. An hour or so later, I leave the apartment too and head toward my hotel. 1 o'clock, I'm on a train heading to London, arriving at St Pancras in just over 2 hours, which gives me the time to find a hotel and prepare my search. And there's probably no better way of finding a record store owner than talking to other record store owners. I'll begin by making a list of stores to visit. I already have a name and an address, Alan O'Reilly. That's better than nothing. I'll take the opportunity to ask a few questions about the record too. Maybe I'll be able to get more precise information about this Putnam that Enzo mentioned. After my exciting night, I've spent a hectic morning running from subway to subway to catch the first train, and all on an empty stomach. If I'm going to be roaming London with my suitcase, it really should eat something first. I'll grudgingly decide to take a wander down the buffet cart to buy myself a sandwich, which is unlikely to be tasty, but which will certainly be very expensive. Instinctively, I check the record is tucked well away at the bottom of my bag, and I begin to trek to car 13. I'm ordering a ham sandwich and a cup of insipid brown liquid which claims to be coffee when I notice a poster suggesting that maybe it would be a good idea to invest in a travel card. I check my wallet to see if by any chance I have a forgotten Oyster card with a few credits on it from my last conference in London. Credits. It's just money. It's pounds. Pounds. With a few pounds on it. As I feared, it must be on a shelf somewhere in my apartment in Bordeaux. Unless, of course, it simply doesn't exist at all in this reality. The steward behind the counter tells me that he's sorry, but they're all out of prepaid cards. I've just resigned myself to a long wait in line of my arrival in the bustle of King's Cross station when the person behind me offers me her card. It's not a prepaid card. It's an empty card. You put money on it. You don't buy it, you don't ask for like a £50 Oyster card. You get an Oyster card and then you put £50 on it. I'm nitpicking. I'm a nitpicking Londoner. I'm sorry. To be fair, I have had a spare like empty-ish Oyster card on me and given it to somebody. Not a total stranger that I was overhearing, but I have had an empty spare Oyster card that I've given it to somebody who was arriving and said, like, just stick some money on that and you can use this. Okay, she's in her 30s with short hair and a trouser suit. Cool, accept. Look, that's really kind of you, thanks. Out of courtesy, I add, can I reimburse you for it? Oh, there's no need, really. Her French is excellent, despite the touch of a foreign accent which I can't place. If you're really resolved on an exchange of resources, buy me a coffee and we'll call it even. I'm almost out of cash and I'll avoid me paying the card charges for such a small amount. And anyway, I wouldn't mind a bit of company. It'll help me pass the time, don't you think? She holds out a hand. Ava, nice to meet you. Alice. I shake her hand and nod and order another espresso for her. I join my generous benefactor who's taken a place near the counter. I slide the coffee to her, she slides the travel card to me. So tell me, Alice, what brings you to London? I take a minute to watch her before answering. This Ava is a bit odd. I'm certainly not going to share my private business with a stranger, no matter how generous she is. Plus, there's nothing to convince me that she's not the umpteenth person who wants to steal Ulysses' record. Make something up. I'm going to spend a few days with some friends, nothing very exciting. Really? It's funny you don't have you town as a tourist. What makes you say that? I don't know. The feeling. I'd have said you're coming to London with a clear purpose. Looking for someone, perhaps? No, not exactly that. You've lived through something that's changed your view of the world and you're looking for answers, right? I involuntarily stiffen. So in fact she knows exactly who I am, and her presence in the line was no coincidence. She scrutinises me, her eyes too intense, too piercing, making me extremely uneasy, as if she could plumb the depths of my soul with a glance. I try to regain control of the conversation by turning the question back on her. And what brings you to London? Well, I guess you could say I lost something a few years ago, an object that was priceless to me and my organisation. After finally tracking it down very recently, I found that it changed hands before I could, let's say, secure a transaction, if you see what I mean. If I had any doubts about my companion's intentions before, they are now crystal clear. I could try to feign ignorance and slip away. I don't believe Ava's the type to make a scene in public. I could also finish this game of make-believe and confront her head-on about the record. Speak frankly. Right, let's stop this little game and speak frankly. I do actually have in my possession a rare record, which was sent to me without any explanation of what would happen if I listened to it. The record stole my fiancé from me, and I have no intention of letting it go before get back to my reality. If you know how I should do that, I'm all ears. Ava gives me a half-smile tinged with a mixture of melancholy, weariness, and maybe a touch of irony. I'm not going to lie to you or comfort you with false hope. The chances of you managing to undo the effects of the record are extremely slim. The choir of the gods is not so easily mastered. However, if your ties with your fiancé were erased so easily, haven't you considered that perhaps it's because they weren't as strong as you thought? You don't know me, because I don't know that she's wrong. How can you claim that when we don't know each other? I don't need to know you to know you're a lemming like most people around us. You know, men and women who are truly capable of taking their fate in their own hands are rare. It requires strength of the soul, and I don't discern in you. You'll forgive me. She lets out a sigh. Anyway, I don't feel that you're the right state of mind to talk at present, but something tells me that we'll meet again. And next time, I hope with all my heart that you'll be ready to return that which belongs to me. She turns to the window and watches the English countryside rush past, cutting off the conversation. I wait undecided for a moment before taking my sandwich and my coffee and leaving the buffet car. The first thing I notice when I get back to my seat is that my case is gone. I understand better why Ava redoubled her efforts to keep me talking. I conclude that she must have one or several accomplices like Eddie Black, who seems to be operating alone. I don't expect I'll see my case again, which in any case contained nothing of any value, just some toiletries and a few clothes I brought with me. The record is safe in my handbag with my papers. My neighbour in the next seat looks as if she's fast asleep. I don't have the heart to wake her and ask if she'd noticed anything. As a salve to my conscience, I question the two teenagers in the seat across the aisle, but they shrug their shoulders and murmur, "Sorry." I drop into my seat, struggling against panic. The thought of finding a conductor and telling him about my problem crosses my mind, but I banish it quickly. And what if that's what they expect me to do? I admit to myself with some difficulty that the conversation with Ava has really shaken me up. Ava will certainly be on the lookout for her first chance to get hold of the record. I'll have to be doubly careful now. The last half hour of my journey drags past in feverish suspense. When the train finally begins to pull into the station, I leave my seat to be near the next exit, ready to disappear into the crowd as soon as it stops and the doors open.